Hey friends, today we are on lesson 28, session 3. We're moving on from 2D shapes, which are flat, to 3D shapes. And we're going to be discussing, we're going to be recognizing and describing cubes today. So first, let's take a look at what a cube is.
So again, like Mrs. Croft said, a cube is three-dimensional, or 3D we call it. So a cube has 6 faces. So if you look at our drawing, it took that cube apart and put them all into individual squares. Okay, so those are called the faces. And then it says each face is a square, and you can count the number of square faces. So if we actually had a cube in our hand, which if we were in school, we would, and we'd manipulate that cube so we could look at it and count all of those squares. But in this case, you're just gonna have to look at the picture and see that there are 6 faces in a cube.
So you want to know that even though right now you can only, like if you look at this first one right here, you really only see this 1, 2, 3 of the square faces, right? So you have to know that there's one on the bottom right here, one on the back right here. So this one would be the 4 right there. This one would be the 6 right here. Over here we have the 5. Missing one. Am I?
No.
No, okay.
3,
That's
3.
all. 3 plus 3 is 6. Okay, here we go. Additionally, cubes have edges, vertices, and faces. So a square has an edge, it has edges, and it has vertices, but it doesn't have faces. What does it have instead? Angles, right?
Angles, yes.
So when we're talking about what three-dimensional shapes have, we're going to talk about edges, vertices, which are the points, and then faces, which is the flat surface of the shape that we can see. So each face is a square, and all of the squares in a cube are the same size. So we know when we're talking about a square that the lengths of the sides are the same, right? There's 4 square corners. To be a cube, all of the faces have to be a square. They can't be a rectangle, they can't be a triangle, they can't be some other shape. An edge is formed where 2 of the faces meet. So if you look here, this face and this face meet along this line right here. And so we would call this line an edge, okay? So in a 2-dimensional shape, we'd call it a side. On a 3-dimensional shape, we would call it an edge. And then a vertex is formed where 3 edges come together. So if we look here, this edge comes here, this edge comes here, and this edge comes here, all into this same point right here. So we would call that point a vertex.
All right, so now we're going to look at some shapes, and we're going to tell which shape is a cube and tell how you know. So we're just going to talk about this and do this out loud. So in the first one, it says A. And so we look at that, and right away we know it's not a cube because it's flat. It is a flat shape. We just got done talking about what flat shapes are, and that is a square. So we know it's out. Now, if you look at the next one, okay, well, it's definitely a 3-dimensional object, but does it have all the sides being the same, or all the edges and the square faces? So if you look at that, that doesn't have a square face. That has a triangular face. Okay, so that would be called a triangular prism, which we'll learn about later too. Now, this one looks, well, interesting. It looks like it has 4. But the thing that gives it away is that's a rectangle, isn't it?
It is a rectangle. It's not a square. If you look, I tried to draw the lines, but it's hard. If you look here, these 2 lines right here are shorter than these 2 lines. So I would not call this a square. I would call it a rectangle. So this shape would actually be a rectangular prism instead of a cube.
Right. Ooh, the next one looks pretty good to me. It looks like a square. All the sides look the same. So I would say that one is definitely a cube.
I agree. I think it's a cube as well.
Oh, and then we look at the last one, and we don't see any vertices, right? There's no points. right? So we call that one a cylinder, which is like your can of goodies, right? So that is a cylinder. So we know that our answer is D. And we explained how each one of them didn't work, so we don't need to write that. Okay?
I'm gonna write it out just because, okay? Because it says tell
Great.
how you know. So our answer is D because cubes have 6 faces that are all the same. They are all square faces. Okay?
Yep. Looks good.
All right, let's put it all together. When we looked at the picture, how many faces did our cube have? So when we came back up here, how many faces did we say our cube had?
Our cube had 6 faces.
And it says it right here, a cube has 6 faces. So we know that a cube is going to have 6 faces. All right, so we're going to draw any face of a cube. Well, what does any face of a cube look like?
It's a square. It has to be a square. Yeah. So we just draw a square and we're good. We're done.
Now, is my square perfect? No. But do I know that it's a square? Yes.
Yes.
Good enough. All right. Which shape on the previous page is a cube? So when we came back up here, which shape did we say was the cube? We said it was D. Mm-hmm. So which shape was the cube? We said D. Why is shape C on the previous page not a cube? What did we say this was instead?
It was a rectangle, not a square.
So we know if we were going to write it in words, we know that shape C is not a cube because the faces are made of rectangles instead of squares, right? Mm-hmm. To be a cube, it has to have a square face.
Yes.
Okay, so we can't pick up a cube like we would if we were in school, but we're going to talk about how many edges and how many vertices a cube has. So we're going to come back over here. Maybe we need to come over here.
Yep. Yep, I think we need to be on that one.
Okay, so if we're going to talk about how many edges a cube has, we are going to look at our actual cube first, okay? So this is one edge, and if you were to put this together, it would be these two sides put together, right? Mm-hmm. This is another edge, so that's 2, and that would be these 2 put together. Here's a third edge, and that would be this one right here and this one right here put together. It's really hard to do without an actual shape. Here's another edge, and that would be this side and this side put together. Then we have the sides of the cube. So we have 1, 2, which would be this right here. 3, which I can't quite show you, but it'd be this side and this side put together. And then the one on the back, which is right here, be these 2 put together. Mm-hmm. So what number am I on?
So we're on 8 so far. Okay. 8 so far. Mm-hmm. Now we have to do the bottom.
So if we did the bottom, we have 9, right? That's this. Mm-hmm. 10, that's these 2. 11, that's the 2 on the back. And 12, which is the 2 on the side that we can't see. So how many edges does a cube have?
So a cube has 12 edges.
We're going to ask you guys to try to memorize that for now because we don't have an actual cube for you to hold and count, okay? So how many edges does a cube have?
12.
12 edges, okay? All right. So if we go back to this one, the cube has 12 edges. Then we also need to know how many dots.
Yeah.
Vertices. So we know 1, let's see, 1. Actually, I'm just going to switch to this bigger. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I know that there will be one more over here. 8.
Yep. 8.
Are there 8?
Yep. Yep.
That was a little bit easier than the edges, wasn't it? Okay, so there are 12 edges, 8 vertices. So a cube looks like this. Hold on. It's not 6, 6, and 6, is it? It's 6 faces, 8 vertices, and 12 edges. That's what makes a cube. So unfortunately, it's not quite as easy as a flat shape, is it? As a two-dimensional shape. So we just have to learn this. We have to know when we see an object, if it has 6 square faces, it's a cube. And inside a cube, there will be 8 vertices and 12 edges.
And I think a good real life object is the dice. A dice that you play a game with is the real life object that helps us memorize what a cube is.
Good example. All right, Bonnie says that this figure is a square. Marty says that it is a cube. Who is correct? Explain.
Well, we just talked about all of this, so this should be easy, right? Bonnie says it's a square, but is it a flat shape? Nope. So Marty is right. Marty is correct because, right, it has, it's a solid shape. It has, or it's a three-dimensional shape. Lots of different things we could say here. Marty is correct because it's a 3D shape that has square faces.
That's probably the way I was thinking of it. I have to know cube because of the square faces, right?
Right.
You could also count the faces, the edges, and the vertices. Although I think that, how about we say 6 square faces?
Okay.
There we go.
Looks good.
Okay. Number 7, what is true for all cubes? So we're gonna circle the ones that are correct and we're gonna cross out the ones that are not correct. Okay, so all cubes, do all cubes have 6 square faces that are all the same?
Ooh, they do.
Yeah, they do. We've talked about that. Do they have 6 sides and 6 vertices?
Nope.
What has 6 sides and 6 vertices?
A hexagon.
Hexagon, not a cube. Okay. Remember, we call them edges for 3D shapes. Do all cubes have 4 square faces that are all the same? What did we say up here? They have 6 square faces. So we know that this can't be true. Do they have 4 sides and 4 vertices?
Nope.
They have
That's a square.
Yeah.
Or a rectangle.
Right. Okay. Last one. Tam puts together 2 cubes that are the same size and says his new solid shape is also a cube. Is Tam correct? How do you know? Use 2 cubes to model the problem.
So why is it not correct? It can't be, right? Because once we put those 2 cubes together, we create a rectangle for the faces instead of all squares. Now we do see a square still. You see a square on this first end and a square on the back end if we were actually looking at it. But on all the sides of that 3-dimensional shape, they're all rectangles. So it doesn't work. Tam is not correct.
Okay, so I just wrote when you put 2 cubes together, it creates a rectangle. Or it creates, well, we can still see that. Tam is not correct. Okay.
All right, so your green pages are 697, 698. Please use the example to help you. It reminds you that a cube has 6 faces, 12 edges, and 8 vertices. So make sure you remember that. You will have to do a little what's different and the same, which is easy, and then some sorting. So you got this.
All right, friends, good luck. We'll see you tomorrow.